So what we'll do is I'll show you what I do when I'm shucking oysters. When I'm at home, well, when I'm at work, I use what's called an oyster board that centers everything and keeps it all nice and neat. And then I will use my fancy little oyster glove because I have put the knife through my hand about 3 times. And on the 3rd time I said, okay, I'm gonna make the oyster glove. This is a generalized view of an oyster right here. Cup bottom, flat top, teardrop shape, and the point is where the hinge is. This is where you wanna open up your oyster. You stick your knife in the back part there because A, it's got a little bit of a wider opening, and B, it's the strongest part of the oyster. Once you break it, it's easier to open it. And you do it quite easily by inserting your blade down here in the hinge. You want to wiggle it in back and forth like you're turning a screwdriver till it sets. It should feel like this. At that point, you just turn like a doorknob until the hinge breaks and the oyster is pried open. At this point, you want to see where the top shell is attached to the oyster, which is 2/3 of the way up on the right-hand side of the median. So right here is where the adductor muscle is. So you pry it open, cut the top off, save the shell. Then I turn my oyster towards me, and I'm looking for grit or sand or any broken shells to get that out. This is called the adductor muscle. The adductor muscle is where the oyster is attached to the shell from the bottom and the top. This is the only place where you actually have to cut. So you cut underneath like this, and it's ready to go. And at that point, you would place it on my imaginary tray, which is right over here. Or you eat it, which is probably what you do. You loosen it and you go. Always chew your oysters. Then you aerate, like you're tasting wine. So as you aerate, the flavors develop across the palate. You'll find ocean sea salt, sweet cream, a little bit of earthy notes, a little seaweed, and a very sweet, sugary finish. Now when you're shucking at home, you don't have to have the fancy knife. What I do recommend, or this, what I do recommend is you get your tea towel at home. Don't get your wife's favorite tea towel or your mom's favorite tea towel. You're gonna get in trouble. So you wanna get a tea towel because it's gonna do what the glove does. You get it wet and you fold it up. My tea towel here is about this size here. You fold it once, you fold it twice, you fold it 3 times. You create yourself a little bit of a pocket. The knife is not going to go through. It protects your hand like you wouldn't believe. Even though it's just cloth, it's very simple. At this point, you put your oyster, again, hinged towards the oyster knife, right here. You cover it up, and at this point, you hold on to it so it doesn't move a lot. And you insert the blade to the hinge, open it up, then you can remove it, cut the bottom, and you're ready to present. Depends whether you're doing a whole bunch of oysters or a few oysters or whatnot. Everybody's got one of these at home. It's called a plate. And what I would do if I'm shucking a bunch of oysters is I would use my plate, either put it in the fridge and get it really, really cold. So that keeps your oysters nice and cold and you don't have to worry about ice or anything like that because ice will melt unless you're consuming your oysters quite quickly. So you can do it that way. The other thing I would recommend when you're taking your oysters home, before you shuck your oysters, like a bottle of wine, I would immerse your oysters in an ice bath. It's 50% ice, 50% water, and that will get your oysters nice and cold, about 15 minutes before you want to shuck them, and you're all good. When I'm shucking oysters, I keep my eyes on the oyster. If you don't keep your eyes on the oyster, then you'll have to get a fancy shucking glove, because you'll end up having the knife in your hand. So always keep your eyes on the oyster, and we'll go from there. So here we are finishing up a nice little plate of 6 oysters, as such. And what I'll do is I'll take the top shells, put them down here, put some oysters in between. And the top shell keeps the oyster from rocking around, okay? It'll make a nice little display. And this is just using a porcelain plate, which tends to be very slippery. But you can make it look just as nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. Use the top shell in the middle. I always say less is more. You don't want to see as much ice or plate. You want to see more shells and oyster. A couple little slices of lemon, like that. And there you go, a little simple little plate that you do at home. And then this is how we do our oysters, and for you, you can have some happy shucking as you're going along in life. Shuckingly yours, Patrick.